Everybody loves a good derby, right? Crosstown rivals going head to head, beefing for years due to the close proximity. Two neighbors that really hate each other. They account for most of the best rivalries we see in the Premier League. Liverpool versus Everton, the Merseyside derby, Steven Gerrard hat tricks, Suarez beefing with Moyes, Robbie Fowler's cocaine snorting celebration. They be getting active over there. There's the Manchester Derby, which was honestly like when you was in high school and some football player was always picking on this one kid who was like an ugly, short little nerd, and he was getting stuffed in lockers and shit. And then one summer out of nowhere, he got a growth spurt and hit the gym, and then everyone came back to school and he just started beating the shit out of the football players every day. Yeah, it's pretty one-sided now. Of course, there's the North London Derby. Historically, we're better, of course. I think Arsenal have 83 wins and Tottenham have 61. Recently, though, it's been like 3 or 4 years since Tottenham beat us at their own ground. Not to mention Arsenal winning the title at their stadium back in the day. There's really not much you can do to recover from that. I got to get back. Chelsea and Tottenham is another. The Battle of the Bridge in 2016 is one of the best games in recent Prem history, in my opinion. Their matchup a year before that, where Tottenham won 5-3, was almost just as good. Despite all that good stuff, though, I think there's a lot of people who would agree that the best of the best Premier League rivalries stem from success. Not two teams beefing with each other because they have to. Don't get me wrong, it leads to some good battles, but those rivalries are automatic. The moment you transfer to a club, the hatred is instilled in you like code implanted into a robot or something. It's like you fighting your brother. Y'all live in the same house, y'all argue all the time. Of course there's going to be fights. You expect that. When you go off to school and now you're beefing with another kid you dislike for entirely separate reasons, there's something different and way more serious about it. Two teams who aren't exactly automatic rivals due to proximity the way a derby would be, but they hate each other because they're standing in the way of each other's success. Usually these teams are at the top of the league and their clashes twice a year are so intense because they're crucial to the outcome of the table. These matchups aren't always based on dislike, though they often can be. I feel like Manchester City and Liverpool is the best example of a rivalry based entirely around ridiculously good football. They have their scraps here and there, but you rarely find the highlights of their clashes to be a fight or some kind of argument or controversial moment between the teams. It was literally just absurdly good football a good majority of the time. The 2-1 at the Etihad in the beginning of 2019 will forever remain one of the best games I've ever watched, ever. Perfectly end to end. The ball was almost never out of play. There were wild moments of insane skill and brilliance, moments of clutch reliability. Possession was almost perfectly 50-50. Each team was separated by just 5 passes. It was 583 to 578 or something like that. Only separated by 1 shot on target. It was the perfect football game. The 2-2 at Anfield in 2021 was another one. Almost perfectly split possession. Both teams with just over 500 passes and almost the same number of shots on target in the draw. It's funny that in the bigger picture, City is viewed as the clear winners of the Pep Klopp rivalry by far because a lot of the best games from this beef were Liverpool wins. The 4-3 at Anfield in 2018, the 3-1 at Anfield in 2019, their Champions League clash back in 2018 too, though. To be fair, I don't think Klopp ever won at the Etihad, so the one that goes down in the history books will always be the one that claims the trophies, though, and City did over and over and over and over again. Despite the lopsided trophy cabinet, Liverpool and City will always be remembered for the excitement they brought to the Prem for the last half decade or so. Still, though, there's been this kind of sense that something was missing a bit from that rivalry. It was beautiful to watch, but where was the real edge? Did anybody really get the sense that there was true dislike going on there? Relative to a lot of other rivalries, even outside the Prem like El Clasico, I don't think there was. To be fair, on one hand, I don't care much because a lot of those classic matches would have been ruined by things like silly fights and red cards. I won't lie though, on the other hand, the instigator in me could have used a lot more extracurricular activities. Let's take it back to early in Premier League history, shortly after it was birthed in the early 90s. United are running rampant. They've won 4 of the first 5 Prem titles. Ferguson has a fucking super team, and even though he's already been on top for a while, he had a fresh new generation coming in. Eric Cantona was 30, and he'd be out the door soon, but a 21-year-old David Beckham, 22-year-old Ryan Giggs, a 24-year-old Roy Keane, a 21-year-old Paul Scholes, and 23-year-old Ole Gunnar waited to take the reins. It was looking bad for the Prem. It's actually kind of funny because before 1997, Arsenal were side characters. I don't even think they'd ever came in second place yet during the 5 years of the Premier League's lifespan at that point. It was Blackburn and Newcastle that had been the biggest threats to United's success. Blackburn even won a title at one point. United was like the Empire, and Wenger and Arsenal were Luke and them, silently building a rebellion until it was time to strike. They signed Bert Gamp in June 19 1995 from Inter before Wenger even joined Arsenal. They signed a 20-year-old Vieira in 96 from AC Milan. They was really looting the Serie A. Signed 17-year-old Anelka that winter. He also later became a crucial player in the Arsenal-United war. The final steps were signing Mark Overmars and Emmanuel Petit in the summer of 97. With Roy Keane missing almost the entire season through injury, Arsenal seized the opportunity and just barely squeezed past United to take the Premier League title by 1 point. The most crucial win was a 1-0 victory at Old Trafford. Now, don't get it twisted. Arsenal and Man United didn't like each other for a long time before this. They had a lengthy history of scraps well before the Premier League. These motherfuckers used to go out there and try to kill each other. Since the 80s, they would fight on the pitch, but Arsenal fell so far behind United in terms of success that the beef kind of died down. As soon as Arsenal started biting at their heels again, though, best believe that shit sparked right back up. If we're being honest, a lot of this was Patrick Vieira and Roy Keane. If you're my age, which is too young to have witnessed it live, and you still haven't gone back and watched some of their old matchups, you have to, bruh. It's peak entertainment. Both of them were hotheads, and both of them were certified crash outs. You could see how this constantly ended up disastrous on the pitch. It's important to remember that both of them were still good as fuck, by the way, especially Vieira. The first meeting after Keane recovered from his injury in 98, Vieira welcomed him back by absolutely cooking him at Highbury and winning man of the match in a 3-0 Arsenal win. Honestly, one of the best midfield performances I've seen from an Arsenal player in a big game. He had Keane on strings. Keane got his get back the next year, though, and put 2 goals on Vieira's dome at Highbury, including the late winner. They got into their first actual fight this game, too, because Vieira got mad at a loose leg swing from Keane. Probably their most iconic clash was in the Highbury tunnel before their game in February 2005. Allegedly, Vieira and Perez were picking on Gary Neville, and Keane lost it on them. Vieira then squirted his water on Keane, and you can probably imagine how angry that made him. The funniest thing about this is how tiny the tunnels were back then. I would be mad all the time, too. Like, damn, can y'all back the fuck up? Hot-ass breath breathing down my neck. I'm surprised they didn't fight more often. Another big goon back in the United Arsenal war back in the day was Ruud van Nistelrooy. The guy was a dickhead, to put it in simple terms. Ferguson's squad were full of players I guess you could call thugs, but Van Nistelrooy was probably the most aggravating, especially with the fake-ass innocent act he was always putting on. I was watching the United Arsenal match at Old Trafford from the 2001 to 2002 season where Arsenal won 1-0 to give them the title, and after Wiltord scored early in the second half, Van Nistelrooy literally spent the rest of the game diving, poking, prodding, kicking, and doing anything he could to get an Arsenal player sent off. The funniest part is Arsenal knew what he was doing, and even Vieira tried to keep a level head, but he still managed to wind up Keown. It was always Keown who ended up pissed. It's fucking hilarious, but it led to one of the funniest moments in Arsenal versus United history. 2003 season, Arsenal don't know it yet, but they're on their way to being invincible. Early in the season, they make a stop at Old Trafford, and that game was pretty much an old-fashioned slugfest, not really the most volatile attacking-wise. Late in the game, Van Nistelrooy kind of jumps on Vieira weirdly, and Vieira gets pissed and kind of lashes a leg out at him. Now, Vieira wasn't even close to the dude, let's be real, but Van Nistelrooy jumps back all dramatic, like his life flashed before his eyes or something. The ref sees this from an angle behind Van Nistelrooy, and it probably looked worse than it really was. Either way, Vieira gets a second yellow, and he's sent off. A little while later, Keown gets a penalty, and even that was sketchy as fuck because it didn't look like he did much. Calling that at the end of a crucial game like this, definitely questionable. So Keown is definitely fucking steaming at this point. I can just imagine what's going through dude's head. But Van Nistelrooy steps up and misses the penalty anyway, but he smashed it off the ball for no reason. He was doing way too much. Keown runs over and literally starts screaming in this dude's face like the ball isn't still in play. Then, a few minutes later, when the final whistle finally blows, he runs over and bonks him on the head. Bro, I was so fucking weak when I seen this for the first time. They literally surrounded him and started bullying the dude. Lauren pushing him, everybody looking like they about to fight. Keane was actually trying to calm shit down for a change, weirdly enough. Even Henry, Mr. Nonchalant, was tight. Bro, I wish I seen this live. Genuinely hilarious. You see what I'm saying, though? I don't think Liverpool City had that. Even though, to be fair, a lot of modern rivalries don't have the chance to get that extra edge, just because it's a lot easier to get a yellow and get sent off nowadays. And the game is also a lot more controlled and less wild and ping-pong-like. City versus Arsenal, though, I'm not gonna lie, it's getting nastier and nastier the more time passes. It's kind of hard to not see the similarities between the beginning of Arsenal United in the 90s and this. I mean, you got the clear powerhouse who's won almost all the recent titles besides one outlier. Then you got Arsenal trying to overthrow a team that doesn't look vulnerable at all. Well, at least not until a tough injury to a key midfielder. Other than that, though, the rivalry is really starting to gain that edge. A couple seasons ago, it was just City beating up on Arsenal home and away. Then suddenly last year, with the addition of Rice and both Saliba and Gabriel taking a step forward, City suddenly struggled against Arsenal. Couldn't score home or away, lost at the Emirates, lost in the Community Shield. Then this year, it boiled over just weeks into the season. You could tell Haaland was pissed about getting shut down by Saliba and Gabriel throughout last season because he lost it after Stones scored. He really didn't have any reason to throw the ball at Gabriel. With the Trossard red and the argument at the end, along with all the talk going on in the last week and City players clearly being bothered by the fact that Arsenal just didn't let them score at all, the Emirates in February is circled on like every football fan's calendar. We talked before about how the Premier League being miles and miles head and shoulders better than the other top 5 leagues is a bit over-exaggerated, and the main thing it has over other leagues is the entertainment, the mid-table quality, and the promotion. All the different derbies and rivalries that are crafted over the years is a core part of that. You won't find anything like it.